What up, gamers? We are back with some more modern action. This time around, it's going to be Goryos Creativity versus 4-Color Omnath, or 4-Color Pile, whatever variation you want to describe the deck as. So if you have not seen either of these decks, it's been a while since we've seen Creativity. We've seen varying degrees of the 4-Color Omnath list over the last coming weeks and months. Some players that are running more avatar cards, Aang the Last Airbender type of cards in there, whether it's Aang at the Crossroads or the one that flips, transforms. We also have just sort of like Omnath elemental piles and stuff like that. So it's basically just you're running 4-color just powerhouse of goodies, right? So you've got Flays, you've got Riddlers, you've got all kinds of goodies thrown in here. But Bolt's going to answer the Delighted Halfling to kind of slow down the plan here. On the other side of things, let's talk through the Goryos Creativity. So there's been, of course, Esper's Goryo has been a deck on and off of power level, in and out of the meta for years. All right, we've talked about it many, many times over the course of Modern. Creativity is one that every so often will skyrocket up in popularity and power, and then disappear as people kind of prepare for it a little bit more. But this is the fusion of both, and a big reason why we're seeing this update is a new card from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and it is our Raph and Mikey. All right, this I'm sure you guys have seen some sort of variation of it, but it's a 7/7 trample haste, and whenever it attacks, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card on the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. There are essentially 4 creatures in the deck: Raph and Mikey, the Troublemakers, Grizzlebrand, Emrakul, and Atraxa. Like, the goal is to either Goryos and bring back one of those scary creatures, because you can respond to the trigger of the Emrakul Shuffle and Goryos it back, and then just be like, all right, I'm going to hit you. So that's one way, Goryo the creatures back. Or you can Indomitable Creativity and basically get rid of your tokens or creatures and turn it into one of these bigger, scarier creatures. But we do see a Flage coming out here, trying to put the pressure on our opponent. Yeah, the 4-color Omnath list, or 4-color pile, or whatever you want to call it, is basically a super grindy, powerful deck. Like, if you're playing almost like a fair game plan of, like, I'm just going to do my normal fair game of Magic, you're gonna have a real hard time against this pile, because it's just like basically the best cards in those colors, and we're just drawing cards and removing creatures and prismatic endings and leyline bindings to back up some removal that we also see with Flage. So it's got a lot of power with it. The other side of things, Goryos does have the Creativity list does have a very explosive way to go about it, and you sort of have to have 2 ways to answer the deck. You have to have ways to deal with the graveyard, which we already see like sort of a setup here with the Faithless Looting type effects, and as well as the Fable of the Mirror Breaker, so you can like draw and discard, and you're able to sort of set yourself up here. But no Goryos target we see with this, so we'll drop down here as we're setting ourselves up. But yeah, we were hoping for something to be able to hit. All right, they're just doing a life total check and confirming here, because that's always important to make sure your life totals are accurate in between games. But hope you guys have been enjoying all of our gameplay. Of course, we did have our Legacy gameplay that came out on Saturday for y'all to be able to enjoy. We've got our budget MTGO gameplay that's going to be coming out this coming Saturday. And then, of course, every Monday and Thursday, we've got our regular scheduled gameplay. We have one more 4 seasons recap that we're going to do, which is going to be an affinity match. So stay tuned for that. I believe that's coming out next week. And then we're getting into, we have a little bit more of our Pokemon Q building videos that'll be coming out on the Saturdays. So if you guys enjoyed the Psychic build and that discussion, we've got our Water Pokemon build coming up next. And then we'll go through, and we, of course, still have a couple more that we got to film up for, because, you know, we do have to get all the types in there and at least get a rough build around. The problem is I still haven't pulled the trigger on picking up additional Charizards. I have one base set Charizard in my collection, and I'm like, okay, I know they've reprinted it a couple times. I just have to find one of the reprints that are relatively cheap, find some damaged versions, some beat to hell versions that are still sleeve playable, and I'll be happy. Like, that's the goal. These aren't, like, I'm not looking for pristine cards to sit in a binder and look at or get graded. I'm looking to play the cards. Speaking of playing the cards, we see Ren and 6 going to come out here, and immediately we see the Prismatic Ending response on the following turn. So both players just sort of like back and forth volleying to each other, trying to kind of set up, trying to answer those setups, and we see a big flood of tokens come out for our Creativity player here. So all this sort of basically had to pivot into a Creativity line when the Emrakul shuffled everything away. So now we're sort of in this next setup here, but Abundant Growth going to come out, help some mana fixing when you're in a 4-color pile. That is nice. And Prismatic Ending, both the tokens, that is nice. That again, you have to have answers for 2 different strategies, and the Creativity in hand was about to pop off and go for that. But we do see the draw and discard. Goryos ends up getting discarded, and we immediately drew into the Raph and Mikey there. So that's tough to be able to see. So not going to be going for that at the moment. But, oh, the Surgical. So this is a really cool thing. I've been talking with the Goryos player, the Creativity player, about this, and they have the one of mainboard Surgical that they're running, and they are loving it. Right now we're seeing the stripping of the Fleege out of the deck here. So that is very nice to be able to grab. But I said they're going to be, you know, just jamming a one of Surgical in all their decks from now on. They'll be sitting at that 61 card special that I always am preaching. So, but speaking of 61 cards, I'm going to be playing in a Modern tournament coming up. There is a special one for charity that is going to be on April 11th there, and it is Modern 2015 format. So I'm very excited. Going to head down to Harrisonburg for this charity event, help raise some money, also be able to play some old school Infect with Gitaxian Probe, my favorite version of, you know, of Infect at the time, because that was when I was doing all the grinding, you know, made top 10 SCG side events, was able to make win a qualifier for a GP, essentially, where you got buys, and then of course made day 2 of said GP with the deck. So like, but yeah, I'm excited to be able to play it again in its entirety and not have to deal with some pesky fatal pushes and stuff like that. But hey, there's the Creativity, there's the Emrakul. Let's see. Now, it does not have haste, so there is a world where maybe, right, you know, so you're saying there's a chance. Let's see. Leyline Binding off the top just once. No. 19. They checked the life totals. Like, am I at 19? Technically 17, because we did have fetches and shocks, 2 fetch shocks, but then the Flage hit to like negate 1 fetch shock. So unless my life total tracking is off, which is very possible, that does happen quite a bit when I am doing the editing of the videos. But hey, speaking of Aang at the Crossroads, we mentioned him at the beginning of the video, popping up here. So we do get a nice little cheeky check. So any good creatures we can do, grab here, put them onto the battlefield, and it says, hey, look at these ley lines that I cannot utilize. So let's scoop it up here. Go to game 2, get into the sideboard action here, as these players are going to start looking for some tools to kind of help them out. And our Creativity player says, I don't know what to side against you, but we get to see a little cheeky peek about what they're grabbing and, you know, what they're trying to utilize here, because there are some tools. Like, I feel like there's always something that you can go, well, this might be a little bit better against you, so then maybe one of the cards that I've got, you have some redundancy that you can be able to kind of shave on there. So you know, we see actually a good chunk coming out there.
Interrupting our gameplay to let you know about our new affiliate with NerdGear. nerdgear.gg/nanman will take you directly to the website, and as you can see, they've got a bunch of awesome gaming accessories from playmats, life counters with the life tracks, playmat holders, and more. So make sure you do some browsing on the site, find some goodies, and then use the code NGNanman for 5% off your entire order. But let's get back to our gameplay.
Have you seen the Anthro furry chart and that with the line on it that shows that if you're on this side, you're...
All right. So we've been talking about how the end of the month is our additional gameplay footage where we had standard gameplay. We just put out some legacy stuff. So we're trying to do like that sprinkling to like end the month with some other paper stuff for y'all to enjoy. We've got Dan footage recorded up to be able to edit up and post up on the channel at the end of the month to kind of wrap up April for y'all to be able to enjoy, because the new Dan Secret Lair did come out. I was lucky enough to be able to pick up one of those bundles as well as somebody else from the shop, so one of them already had sleeved it up, and we're playing a little bit of it this night of the recording, so we get to see a little bit of that at the end of the month. But yeah, also if there's specific gameplay stuff that you're interested in seeing more of, if you're like, I want to see more Legacy on the channel, I want to see more Standard on the channel, I want to see more Pioneer on the channel, whatever other stuff, you're like, show me more Riftbound, whatever you want to see, we'll see if we can sprinkle in some more of that stuff on that last Saturday of the month as that extra stuff for y'all to be able to enjoy. But yeah, so sideboard stuff did happen, allowing players a little bit more opportunity to maybe find some tools to help them out. And again, if you're the 4-color deck, you've got to try to find a way to attack on 2 avenues. Attack the graveyard as well as attack the battlefield and get rid of creatures. So it can be a very challenging position to be in where you're like, I need to have enough removable to deal with things, so I have to get rid of some of my threats and side out some of my threats to kind of make that happen there. But we'll see as both players just sort of like setting themselves up, surveilling, getting triomes, nothing too crazy here. Ooh, Ashiok, so we do get to see a little bit of sideboard availability there for our Goryos player. But you can see a little bit of glare up at the top of the screen. We've been kind of repositioning and trying to set ourselves up at our LGS to try to get the best footage for y'all to be able to enjoy. And sadly, some of the spots we do miss out on a little bit of availability with some of the camera angles with the glare from the lights that are there. So some of the footage we've gotten recently is basically whited out and glared out one player altogether. So like we're starting to get a good map of the shop of like, okay, these spots are the best available spots for being able to record and everything there. So all right, what do we got here? Double Triome. What is our turn 3 play here? Teferi's pretty nice. Looks like we're going to respond to the cast. Get a Surveil land. But yeah, Teferi going to help at least put a stop to any Goryo instant speed shenanigans that might take place. We'll see. Are we going to be upticking or not? I doubt we're going to uptick. Yeah. So we're going to down tick, no targets, draw a card here, and pass. Creativity showing up. But again, it's, the creativity is a slow build up. You need to have tokens. You need to have at least 3 red mana at plus an additional for each token. But Sheldred's Edict coming out, I love that card so much. It's like such a powerful card to help you answer like these sort of one-of threats that exist. But Faithless Looting going to be able to pitch one of the creativities and a land there. All right, Delighted Halfling. Pass. So again, just sort of a much slower build up for both the players here, in this game number 2. But Ashiok's nice. Fetch and response, of course, because you won't be able to search your library when Ashiok resolves. So we'll go find ourselves a surveil land here. Yeah, the other thing, too, it's like, you might go, why would you get a surveil if you know it's going to get milled anyway? But part of it is, hey, getting a tap land, some mana fixing, getting some of it is fine. All of these are going to go away. And then I'll give you priority to cast Leyline Binding. That's good. I like that. All right. No more Ashiok. 5 mana available, though. Is it time? Yes. Omnath, Locus of Creation. So ETB, draw a card, landfall. We can also gain some life, make some mana, deal some damage, do all that kind of fun stuff there. But looks like no land drop that turn, so no landfall trigger to get us some life. All right, so is there... I mean, we've got to see, like, Aang in Game 1, so there's some pretty powerful, like, 4-drop cards that exist to help us look for things. We saw there's Riddlers in Game 1 to help us draw some cards, but... Ooh, Brotherhood's End coming out here. Another little bit of sideboard card. Deal 3 damage to each creature. I wondered if we were going to see like a bolt as well, just to deal with the Omnath and just sort of like wipe everything, but not seeing that there. I like that bringing in because oftentimes players will bring in artifacts to kind of deal with the graveyard, so that helps us do that. And in a creature-heavy deck like this 4-color Omnath list, like, look, here's a Keen-Eyed Curator, which is graveyard hate in the sense of you just kind of pay 1 mana and start chipping away at some of the graveyard. So if you go, I'm going to throw these cards in there, you can eat them at instant speed. So makes it a little bit challenging if you are going for it. I like that. I like that little, you know, trash panda coming out here. You see it every so often in like vintage cubes and stuff like that. But we see a Dwarven Mine coming out. That is not a good sign. Whenever those start getting fetched up, you know creativity's coming soon. So Dwarven Mine number 2 going to be coming out here. Do we've got the creativity? Yeah. There's the creativity. He says, can I use these 2 prismatic endings at instant speed, even though they're sorcery spells, to get rid of these? So, nope, that would be cool, but nope. Can I put this on the bottom then?
It goes the other way.
Alright, so yeah, that was a little bit of fast-paced action there, a little one-sided in that, but like we talked about, it's like the 4-color Omnath deck, like, is such a good deck of just like, I'm just sort of this mid-rangey value engine deck, and if you're doing value fair magic, you're gonna have a hard time against it. If you're doing some a little bit of broken stuff of like, I'm gonna put an Emrakul into play, it's gonna be a little bit harder for the Omnath deck to deal with it. But we see a good chunk of sideboard stuff. Again, we have to answer creatures, have to answer the graveyard, so decent number of cards brought in for both players here. So pretty good way to kind of wrap up this match, in particular, a little bit fast-paced one to start off the week for everybody to enjoy. Again, we've got more gameplay every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you guys are checking out all the videos that you might have missed from previous weeks. But that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, y'all, and I'll see you all next game.